Welcome to the lecture 6, ARC 494, Ecology and Sustainable Development. Today's lecture is about sustainability and sustainable development. So, the first thing we'd like to think about, what is sustainability? Sustainability is about stock and flow. For example, if you have something in your hand and you want to use it, after some time, you will see that what you used actually is more than what you have in your hand. So that is not a sustainable situation. That means sustainability is something whenever we are considering environment, whenever we're considering economy and the society, you are extracting resources, you are using all the facilities, but keeping in mind that future generation will equally can access all those services, all those facilities in future times. So this is about sustainability. So you're sustaining things for keeping in mind that future generation will be using the same thing or even in a better way. So the idea of sustainability and sustainable development came from a team of scientists from MIT in 1972. They were kind of projecting what would be the scenario if the world is running out of resources. And they have written a book. It's called The Limit to Growth, which is assumed the first book on sustainability and sustainable development so far. So in this simulation, they wanted to see that the world is actually losing resources, and in the pace of industrial outputs are going up. So there need to be a balance. That means the resource extraction is kind of a proportional to the industrial output, and at the same time the population is also increasing. That means the demand side is also increasing. So how to balance this demand side and supply side, that was the challenge of a sustainability paradigm. So we can say that sustainable development meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own need. So this is the classical definition given by the World Commission on Environment and Development back in 1987. So the critical part of this understanding was how future generations need. We are going to assess how they are going to place the need in a different time. So it is very difficult to assess future generations need based on being in the present time, right? So this is kind of a dilemma all the sustainability thinkers are facing over the times. And we know that the resource use is very fast, so we are running out of resources from this world. So what would be the situation then? So understanding sustainability in the economic term is a kind of a stock and flow. That means the thing you have in your hand should be more than the expenses you are doing. So in terms of income has to be much more than the expenses you are doing in terms of economic sustainability. But in terms of development, one more indicators can be followed, which is the basic idea of well-being. Well-being comes from the comfort, happiness, and health. So this can mean the different things to different people. That means not all the people are understanding the well-being in the same way. Some people will prefer the comfort level in a different way than other people feel that the comfort is not maybe the primary demand for themselves. So this is kind of an inherent challenge to understand well-being, and this is also inherent challenge of understanding development. So there is a famous parable of the elephant and three blind men. So one man is holding the tail of an elephant, and he is sensing that it's kind of a rope. So another man is kind of trying to touch the belly of the elephant, and he says no, it's kind of a flat and large thing. And another one who is trying to touch the trunk, and he says it seems like a tube. So every person should have a different perspective in the development scenario. So the multiple perspective should be required to shelter in one place to understand the whole picture. So individual perspective may not be the reality, rather the reality would be the multiple perspective, and it can take you to the closest possibilities of the reality. So Oftentimes, sustainability viewed as a balance between economy, environment, and society. This is the traditional model we have. But the false notion is economic activity outside the environment is nothing but a hoax. Inherent competition between those individual elements sometimes can be puzzlesome. Separate goals can be derived, but we want to see as a holistic or inclusive items of these three paradigms, and that is why we'd like to see the right hand side diagram as a strong model of sustainability where economy is performed in the core in a society, and all this economic activity is sheltered by a society based on the society demand and aspiration, and all the economic activity and society creation, everything happening within the environment. So mother nature is basically sheltering us all. This is also called the alternative models of sustainability, sustainable understanding. So now there would be a question, how we are going to measure the sustainable development. So there are five important measures we have in our hand. The first one is the technology. Using appropriate technology in one is one which is locally adaptable, eco-friendly, resource efficient, and culturally suitable. This sort of technology is something we would like to embrace to attain or to measure the sustainability in the first hand. And this whole concept is called design with the nature. Then the second item is the reduce, reuse, and recycle approach. This is a very classical approach which advocates the minimization of resource use, using them again and again instead of passing it onto the waste stream. Rather than we'd like to embrace it as a circular economy. The third measurement item is about promoting environmental education and awareness, and it says making environmental education in the core of the learning process will greatly help to change the thought process and the attitude of people towards the earth and the environment. And the feeling would be the belongingness to the earth. That means you will be acting as a steward towards the earth, and that is called the earth thinking. Fourth item we'd like to embrace is the resource utilization as per carrying capacity. So carrying capacity is the threshold limit of environmental elements, where if you want to put much more stresses to the element can collapse. So in that sense, if the carrying capacity of a system is crossed, say by over exploitation of resources, environmental degradation starts and continues till it reaches at a point of no return. So this carrying capacity can be an assessment tool to understand this sustainable development better. So carrying capacity has two basic components. One component is called the supporting capacity. The supporting capacity has this idea of regeneration of the capacity. That means, for example, if a river has got the time to regenerate itself, it can purify its water. This is kind of a supporting capacity. Another one is the assimilative capacity, which is the capacity of tolerating different stresses. So one was the regeneration capacity, and second one is the stress taking capacity or stress tolerance capacity. And the final measurement scale is about improving quality of life, including social, cultural, and economic dimensions, which ensures the distribution of fair share of benefit. That means within this assessment criteria, sustainable development ensures the life standard, ensures the cultural integrity and equity and economic dimension in terms of equity and fair share. So every people in a society will live in a harmony where nobody will feel like they're kind of thrown off from their proper share. So this is how we can think about sustainable development and we can measure it. And this is the idea of sustainability, to have the right share, to use the proper portion of the resources, considering in mind that future generation will use it again based on their own demand, own need and aspiration. Thank you very much.